Next up, I've got lovely Linda Clarke. So welcome, Linda. Good to see you.
Good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. How are you? Where are you joining us from today?
All right, well, I am joining from beautiful and sunny Nassau, Bahamas, probably a bit far from where a lot of our audience is. And I am so blessed, so thankful to be here this morning. And here is indeed the catchword or the catchphrase for this morning. It truly underscores the chapter in the book for Women Thrive. I am here.
Beautiful.
And I'm sitting here and listening to Anna, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know where to start. I will likely get emotional as well this morning. Ray, you know, the ladies, our co-authors, know what a sacred space it's been for the past 6 months writing our stories. For me, I am here is truly a power statement. I remember when I first started on this journey, and I've always felt compelled to share my story. However, I wasn't certain who to connect with, who to collaborate with, and who I believed would truly honor my story, handle it with care, and provide the platform to deliver it in a way that I knew would impact so many people. I was sitting on this very couch in my home, scrolling through, looking through, Googling actually different women's empowerment groups and who can I connect with to share my story. And I came across a link for an author's cohort and be ready to share your story. I sat on this couch at 5 a.m. in the morning and I began to complete the application. And when it came to the question of what is your story? What is it that you want to share? I began to type and immediately the tears began to flow. That moment let me know that I was connecting with the right group, the right entity of women. I don't know what it was. You can call it intuition. It just felt right. And a few days later, I got a message from Abigail, and I shared things with Abigail that I've never even shared with some of my family members and people who were closest to me in my life about my journey and my struggle over the last 6 years. But I felt comfortable sharing my story, my message with Abigail. And again, I knew that I was being led down the correct path, the path to being present.
Wow.
What does I am here mean for me?
So, Linda, before you begin, I just want to say it's so beautiful to have you here. I'm so glad that our paths have crossed and you are here to tell your testimony because your story could have evolved in a very different way. And I invite people as they listen to your story to really see life from a different perspective. What if you could do anything that you envision? What if life didn't have to be the way you currently feel about yourself, about your life, about your future? So before we begin, I do want to introduce Linda officially, maybe for those who have not met you yet. I know you have a lot of support, and I'd love to invite your supporters to blow up the chat now and let us know we are here to support Linda. And thank you for sharing that story of how this journey began for you, because I think it's important to give that depth of or like behind the scenes of how did we actually end up here? What led you here? And I'm so glad that you've chosen this route to co-author the book with us, because having you on this journey has been really, really amazing. And doing it together as a collective, as a group, and knowing that we can share this journey together has been absolutely wonderful. So give some love and support in the chat for Linda. I'm about to just read her bio very quickly, just for those who may not know Linda yet. So Linda Clarke is a professional speaker, author, real estate manager, and asset management company in the Bahamas. She has master's degree in law with international finance and banking law at the University of Liverpool, and has spent over 25 years in the financial services industry. And she's been recently awarded the Distinguished Toastmasters designation, which is the highest individual achievement that a member can attain in Toastmasters. She's also been elected as a Division B director responsible for 22 clubs in South Florida. So originally from the Bahamas, Linda is passionate about distance running, and you'll find out why in her story. And she has successfully completed 6 26.2-mile marathons. Now, that's more than I have ever run in my life, Linda. And now she helps others achieve their marathon ambitions. She's passionate about mentoring and coaching others in leadership, public speaking, and I have a feeling perhaps marathon running too. So, Linda, over to you. I'll take myself off spotlight, and I'm so excited to hear your talk today.
Thank you so much, Ray. So excited to get into my story. I was like, oh my goodness, forgot about the introduction. So thank you so much for that. And again, picking up where I left off and why I am here is so important. Almost 6 years ago to the date, August actually, I stood on the shore of a beach that's not too far from where I live now. And I was in such a dark place. I believed that the only way to climb out of that dark space was to take my own life. And that is where I was at. I believed that if I just disappeared, that no one would really notice. It wouldn't really matter. I didn't understand my own impact and what I believed God was preparing me for to share with the world. And I'm thankful today for my son because he is the reason why I decided not to take that step. As a woman, and particularly in this society and the culture that we're in, we often carry a certain weight, I think, of guilt and shame when we are not able to keep our families and hold our families together. So on the day that I intended to take that fateful step, my ex-husband at the time had indicated that he was ready to separate, to move on from the marriage. And for me, that was possibly one of the lowest points in my life. I truly felt like a failure at that point. I wasn't able to hold my marriage together, to keep my family intact. My son was very young at that time. And the weight of the problems that we were having through the course of the marriage really shook me. I navigated and I went through the next few weeks and months in a state of shock. I didn't know how to speak, how to properly articulate what I was going through. And finally, the way that I let my emotions out, I sat in my car, parked out front of my home. I got my best friend on the phone and I just screamed. That was the only thing, the only sound, the only emotion that I was able to release in that point of my life. I didn't know what else to do but simply to scream. I realized that navigating through that time, I wasn't handling myself well. My self-esteem, my self-love was really at its lowest point. And I knew that despite the fact that I had friends and trusted persons who I could talk to, I needed to speak to someone on a professional level, someone who was really trained and equipped to deal with what I was dealing with at that time. I knew it was something I couldn't do on my own. And when I reached out to my counselor, she gave me a challenge that totally blew me away. And she challenged me to create a list. And I shared this list in the book. And the list was simply to identify who and what I wanted to be, aside from being a wife and aside from being a mother. And I felt stuck because at that point in my life, I didn't know who I was other than being a wife and other than being a mom. And she challenged me to identify those things in life that truly give me passion and joy. And I think I was floored equally by what she was asking me to do and the fact that I couldn't think of anything in that moment. Who am I? That's a loaded question, and that's the challenge that was given to me. And I was able to move through that period of discomfort and write that list. And I'm here today so thankful and so emotional because when I think of that list, when I think of what I wrote down, and I still carry that list with me to this day, these are things that I have accomplished and more. Accomplished and more, over and above even what I believed I could be during that time. And I thought it was important to share that with this group because particularly here in the Bahamas, embracing therapy, embracing putting your mental health and wellness first is something we're becoming more progressive about it, but it's not a topic that's easily talked about or widespread or readily embraced. And it's important for me to share that we have to identify those moments as women when we're not able to do everything on our own and we're not handling things very well. And I thank God that He placed me where I was, not only to be able to identify that I needed help, but that I needed help beyond my family and friends. We always think that we can talk to our girlfriends, talk to our sisters, talk to our tribe. And sometimes we need to go deeper. And as I worked on my list and cultivated my list, it definitely wasn't easy because I was still navigating those periods of depression. I couldn't drop my son to school and go to work without sitting in the car for an hour just in tears. I couldn't do that. My commute from my son's school to my office was always 45 minutes in my car crying, another 15 minutes trying to wash my face and present myself as someone who has it all together. Heading into the period of my life when I believe things really started to do an upturn or an uptick for me, of course, was my dedication to marathon running. On the day when I stood at that beach to take my own life, I was deep in a marathon training cycle. I was getting set to complete my first marathon that October. And instead of taking my own life, I decided to go for an 11-mile run and just running and in tears and crying. And I thought that everybody's going to look at me and just think that I'm crazy because I'm literally running through the streets of Nassau and I'm in tears. And as I started to develop myself and develop my passion and love for marathon training, that became something that I felt good about. That became something that I could be proud of and take pride in. And so I got heavily into marathon running, and not just for myself, bringing a group together and coaching women and inspiring them to take on those shorter distance and those longer distance races. And so I had a female community of sorts within my group. And it was a very powerful experience. The pandemic came along. And so, of course, being able to congregate as in a group and do certain things, we started to shift away from that. And it was during that time, during the pandemic, that I became introduced to Toastmasters. And I can truly say that that is an organization that has truly changed my life and the trajectory of my life, because it provided me with a space to be able to do what I'm doing today, which is to speak clearly and confidently about my life and my story. And I had moments, even within the Toastmaster space, where I would be surrounded with people, but I felt so alone and so unseen. And I decided to deliver a speech about how broken I felt. And I cried at the lectern, and I watched persons around me just in tears and in shock because I was a fairly new member. And I just laid it out bare for everyone to see. But nevertheless, I gained my confidence and being able to share my story. And at that moment in my journey, when I believed all was on the up and up, I got dealt with two blows. The first, my divorce ended up being finalized. And second, I lost my mom. And for the second time in my adult life, I wanted to disappear. It was a moment that I didn't know how to communicate, how to say that this is overwhelming for me. I literally just wanted to lay down on this couch and just die. I'm thankful for running because during that time, I didn't know what to do. Running was always my safe space. And so I just decided that to get over the death of my mom, I would just go running. That was my fallback. Even going through my divorce, I would just go running. The week that my mom passed away, about 3 days after she passed, I decided to leave my home and go for a run. And about 1.5 miles from my house, I collapsed. I actually felt like I was having a heart attack. I don't know what a heart attack felt like, but it felt like I was having one in that moment. I couldn't breathe. My chest just felt tightened. I didn't know what was happening with my body. I didn't know what to do. And for the second time in my adult life, I believed that it was time for me to focus and to take care of myself. And I did just that. I put a pause on my competitive running, and I decided to really focus on getting my mental and physical state in order. And I took, for the first time in about, I would say, 10 years, I took a break from competitive running and training. I took a year off from the sport to focus on my mental and emotional wellness. And I focused heavily on Toastmasters. I really did. And I just speaking, and becoming more comfortable speaking and moving across stages and being able to impact people became my new passion. But the passion of running never left. And I remember maybe about a year after my mom passed, the application opened for Chicago Marathon. And I remember saying, I'm going to apply for it. And if I get it, I was going to run my 6th marathon in memory of my mom. And when I opened that email, all I saw was congratulations. And the tears just started to flood and it started to flow. And I did that last October. I ran my 6th marathon wearing blue for dementia awareness in honor of my mom's memory. A lot of people don't know I had blue on from head to toe in her memory, because I truly believed it was a sign from her that I am here and that my life isn't ended. She's here for me. She's here supporting me in spirit. And she wants me to live my best life. And I always say it's God ordained. The colors of the book, the blue, the flowers, they just all remind me of her. And so I've gotten so emotional in this journey. But as I wrap up today, and I'm crying, but I realize now that these are tears of joy and tears of progress, because I couldn't do this previously. Just get up and cry in front of everyone. It's always been a challenge for me. I speak from a place of being whole, from a place of healing, and in my season of excellence, as I call it. And it took a while to get here, but I am here. And I want to challenge everyone under the sound of my voice who's ever felt that the only way to deal is to disappear. Just know that if you're here and you're listening to my message, that you too have a purpose to fulfill. You too have a message. You have a story that the world needs to hear. And I'm so thankful to Ray, to Women Thrive, to my community of co-authors for providing me with that space to share my story, to live in my truth, to execute my God-ordained purpose each and every day. And I will now, Ray, bring you up for any question and answers.
Oh, Linda, it's like, oh my God, there was so many moments of like, oh my God, your story could have ended completely differently. And I want to honor your tears and witness you through this journey, the healing, the significant dates that came along with this process, like, the anniversary of your mother's passing. And it was just moments in this journey that were really hard, but you continue to persevere and soul search. And the first time I read your story, I was really taken aback. And it was a beautiful golden thread that was running through your chapter that was so beautiful. And Linda, what kept you going when the going got tough?
Oh, well, definitely throughout this timeline, and notwithstanding, I speak about the list and being able to identify myself as more than, I always remember that there is a little person next to me who is looking up to me and who is looking to me to guide him, to shape him, to help him mold his own path and his own steps. And even within the writing process, and Ray, you know that I've had my difficulties. I think I got struck with writer's block, in all honesty, for about 2 weeks as we were doing the editing. And in the anniversary of my mom's passing, I could not write. I could not pick up my chapter and edit without the tears just flowing. I couldn't write. And I started to feel nervous, like, oh my goodness, is this really going to happen? Am I going to collapse being so close to this amazing journey and project? And I'm so thankful for these ladies who have not pushed, but just always been cheerleaders and support and saying, you got this, and they take the time that you need. And I'm incredibly grateful, incredibly grateful. These are bonds that I will carry with me for the rest of my life.
Oh, Linda, you're making me emotional to say the least. Because we witnessed your story and other women's stories and this journey and just what it took. And I say this book is so special. Truly, it is really special. Because what it took to get here, like, your story as well, was shaped through this journey and it evolved and it became better and more beautiful and you've healed through it, you've grown through it. And I believe when we do that, we take so much care and attention in something we're doing, it is going to impact people deeply, right? Because you really poured your emotions, your raw feelings into it, but also you gave some learnings. If there was something that our listeners today could walk away from today's talk, what would be the core message that you would want to share with someone listening today?
My core message that I wish to leave with everyone this morning. Wow. And there are so many in the journey in this book. But for me personally, I would say and reiterate that as long as you're here, you have life, you're here for a purpose and to share your story. And I've said it in my chapter, not because something that you were involved in failed, that doesn't make you a failure. This relationship failed. This process failed. This breakdown or this communication failed. But you're not a failure. You have so much more to give, so much more life, so much more impact to make. So don't allow the emotions of what's happening to you cause you to make a step or a decision in your life that you can't undo. Because despite how I felt 6 years ago, I am thankful to God that I am here
Mm.
and that I did not make that decision. And I'm here to share my story and impact millions in the volume 3 version of this book.
Yeah. Undo something that you can't undo in that moment of defeat. What a beautiful story and a message today. So encouraging. And like I said at the beginning of this event, I've certainly felt that way. Maybe I wasn't never that close to actually feeling like I am about to take that step, but I've certainly felt and pondered, why am I here? Is it worth me continuing on this journey? But it's the greatest shame, right, to lose someone. And so in the Bahamas, I know it has been quite prevalent lately that women and other people have been taking their lives. And you've shared a little bit in some of our calls. Can you just talk a little bit about that, about what's happening? Why are people doing it, and how perhaps your story could change a lot of lives if it has the reach to the right persons who perhaps need to read your story right now?
Definitely, Ray. And when I think about the timing, the divine timing of this book and what has been happening here locally, and just reading these gut wrenching stories of women, of mothers who took that step that I almost took and sadly went forward with it. And I'm thinking, what if? What if you knew that there was someone next to you who's dealing with this exact same crisis and who overcame? Would you have made that step? What impact would you have had on your babies? And that really pushed me into moving forward into another phase in life purpose and positioning myself in a few weeks to get into doing life coaching and really speaking to those women who really may be impacted, who may be struggling, who may not know that there's life after divorce, life after depression, life after death of your family members, your mom, someone who's really close to you. And that is the lifeline that I want to throw out to the women in our community who are struggling with these similar issues. What if you knew that that woman next to you went through it and is still here?
Linda, that is the reason why the story and this book has to travel far and wide, not just within Bahamas and your community and our communities, but way, way further. And I want to ask our audience today to help us. So I would love for you to head on over to Amazon, grab yourself 2 copies of the book, right? Get yourself a Kindle, but get yourself 2 paperback copies, more if you can, and give it to someone or share the link to someone. Just share it on social media. You never know who may need this right now. And this could be the divine intervention in saving somebody's life and then allowing them to be a testimony, right? When I observe Linda's story, it's so powerful that she made a different choice and found purpose and meaning and, community to support her beyond the struggles and challenges that she faced. So, can I please ask you all to go ahead, grab yourself at least 1 or 2 copies of the book, share it with somebody else. It's brand new, it just got released today, and let's save some lives. Because you never know who may need to read these stories. And there are many beautiful stories in this book that hopefully I think is going to be a beacon of hope for other people to continue on their journey despite the adversities and struggles. Linda, lastly, how do people connect with you?
Thank you, Ray. I shared my LinkedIn with you, so feel free to connect with me. And again, to any ladies on this call, ladies or men, really, you're struggling with these issues, feel free to connect with me. I will be more than happy to have a one-on-one session. It's something now that I'm truly passionate about, and I'm really looking forward to providing a similar safe space that I have had afforded to me in this process.
Yeah, Linda, thank you so, so much. I'm celebrating. Congratulations on becoming an author and releasing your book into the world. I'm so proud of you for being here, sharing your story, for inspiring other people. I hope that your voice and your story goes far and wide to impact many people and hopefully save many more lives. Linda, thank you so much.
Thank you.